Hello and welcome to this week's version of Midweek Podcast. My name's Jerry Hendricks. I'm here with my good friend Tique Hamilton.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Tique. Good to see you. Hey, love that cup.
Thanks. I got it yesterday. I was excited. It was delivered. No, I got it Monday. It was delivered a day early.
That's
so I washed
awesome.
it yesterday so I could use it. It's a Love Does cup. Bob Goff, we talk about him a lot. Got it in the mail. I'm excited about it.
Good. A new mug to start your day. That's good.
Yeah, and it's got good coffee in it too.
There you go. Hey, we're glad that you're checking in with us in a variety of ways. If you're on Facebook Live, we'd encourage you to let us know where you're listening from in the comment section. We evaluate regularly the different ways that we try to communicate our conversation from week to week. And so if you just do that for us, let us know that you're listening, that would help us. So thanks for doing that.
You know, somebody right now is going, really, they evaluate each week? They're a little surprised by that.
I actually evaluate daily, but that's okay.
They're still surprised.
Probably not. Anyways, good to see you.
We're in the midst of Holy Week.
Yes,
we had
we are.
Lenten lunch yesterday. So, started off with Palm Sunday. Lenten lunches are yesterday, today, and tomorrow. This is a very focused week for us.
It really is. And, in talking to several of my friends throughout the week and even preparing for the week, it's still one of those strange experiences for me. I consider myself an older rookie in terms of this pastoral ministry, but these experiences for me are deeply personal, even though oftentimes I'm the one directing it.
Right. You said something interesting yesterday when we were in your office that Palm Sunday is one of those Sundays that you really enjoy preaching, that it will kind of wear on you just because of the intensity of the day, but it's something that you really enjoy.
I shared that. Yeah, I got an email from a friend, Walt Henson, mutual friend, and he made a comment, gave some feedback about that message, and that's what I shared with him. That is, for whatever reason, it's, I believe, a very difficult Sunday because it encompasses so much before you come back for Resurrection Sunday. Right. And we're real deliberate in paying attention to the rhythm of the calendar and wanting to not rush that and to live in the experience, even if it is tense-filled. And there's probably not a Sunday out of the year that's more consistently like that than Palm Sunday. And so you have the extremes, and then you kind of have to rest or leave that worship in a bit of things that are unresolved and some tension. So, but the progression of Holy Week makes that more meaningful, and we've talked about that. And I think the thing that I continue to think of in this is that you get compartmentalized sometimes by, oh well, you're a pastor, so naturally you feel that way. And man, I really hope that's not the truth. That it's not just because I'm a full-time minister or pastor of a church that I feel that way. That it's something that I want to feel deeply, and I want others to feel it as well, to walk through those rhythms. And so Holy Week is a very significant week for us, and we get to have another couple of days of lunch time with different churches and hear different speakers. And then on Friday we'll have our Tenebrae service at 6 o'clock. So a very, very, very good week.
We've said it before, but Tenebrae service talks about the shadows, service of shadows, and we slowly, the lights go away.
It's a progression of darkness, and it's one of those, it's hard to describe, obviously, but it is a very meaningful experience.
It is one of the ones where people walk away from it in a silent, reflective tone, and it really does set the mood for you for Saturday, and experience a little bit of what the disciples, obviously we weren't there, we didn't see it all happen, but you get a picture of what the disciples might have been experiencing on Saturday. Yeah,
I think, for me, it's always one of those things where there's just that, you kind of remain in that silence, even if that silence is only in your head. Right. It seems like everything just kind of stops at that moment. And then for Saturday, as you wake up and you begin to, your mind, it starts to turn and start thinking through those events and just the things that might have gone through the disciples' minds at that time. And so very, very good weekend. And, a lot of folks, and it's a very simple service too. I think that's what amazes me. There may not be a service that we do ever that is more simple to bring together than that one, but it has a tremendous impact in the way we think and experience this Holy Week.
And not just for the people that we're seeing in the congregation, but for us also. We walk through it also ahead of time planning, but
Right.
then in the moment too. It's
Right.
one of the few services that I feel we can come to and we can be a part of, and not just worried about what's going on in worship and like coordinating things like that. You're just there and you're a part of that worship
Right.
service.
It's real simple. Once it gets going, it just flows. And so I'd encourage everybody to find a service like that near them, or join us on Friday.
Before we get too far away from Palm Sunday, I think the difficulty with Palm Sunday, like you said, is that there's a lot of stuff that goes on during the week from when Jesus enters to the cross that we forget about sometimes because we focus on palm leaves, little kids coming in shouting Hosanna, and then we jump to Jesus' praying in the garden, getting arrested and crucified. But there's things that happen during the week that we miss out on if we're not staying up with like the readings that we have, that we offer, or if we don't have this very intentional way of walking through Holy Week. It might be one of those things next year that we can do a live video each day, just talking about the events that happened on that day.
Right, and I think that's the tension you feel trying to prepare that service, because that's kind of how you're going to start. And then I know we had 3 songs that were all titled Hosanna.
Right.
And so I'm going, that's a lot of Hosanna we're doing. But there is I think that there's some ways maybe we can look at that. And Sunday, the main idea behind what I was trying to say is that we don't want to just observe. We're not watching a movie. We're not just trying to observe the activity of Jesus and those around him in these last days. But I believe that we want to make this journey ourselves,
right,
and see what that journey turns out to be for us as we deal with what Christ went through.
We kind of paired that. We didn't know exactly where you were going on that part of it. You and I hadn't talked. But in the youth, we talked about Palm Sunday and, what would your experience have been in the crowd? Like, what would you have felt? Where would your emotions be? And allowing ourselves to get caught up in the narrative, like you said, of what's going on during this week and where do we find ourselves. So it paired perfectly with what you said on.
Yeah, I liked you had posted some stuff from our student ministry, and I really liked the way that you developed that with them on Sunday, and a great teaching opportunity for them there.
I told you that this morning, the reading plan that I'm on, it's in Mark was today, and so Peter talks about his denial and him saying, "I'll never deny you," and then there's a little verse right after it, and all the other disciples agreed. And I think for me today, it was seeing that and going, it's easy for me to point at Peter and say, "Come on, Peter, you got to do better than this. You need to be that rock." But I probably would have been with the other disciples and agreeing I'd never betray you, and then the darkness happens, and you find yourself hiding in the shadows and watching what's going on.
Yeah, that's one of those scary things. I mean, there's different things that happen in life where we think as believers that we're always going to stand for the right thing and do the right thing, but given other circumstances or given the real time circumstances, we really don't know sometimes how we'll respond. And I think that's what keeps us dependent on a relationship with Christ,
right.
Whether it's through seeking forgiveness or through having the ability to do what God would want us to do in those situations.
I don't know if it's just a special thing with you that you're good when it comes to quoting and talking about light and darkness. But I've said it before that one of my favorite quotes you did, and this is years ago back at Crosspoint, was that light is only significant when it's taken to the darkness, and that was in an Advent service. And then this Sunday, your quote that you had said, "If we hide in the shadows, the world looks like a very dark place." And I thought that was pretty quotable too.
I thought of you when I saw, and I really can't remember where I found that quote. Mm-hmm. I found it some time ago and wrote it down, and then I kept struggling whether or not that I would use it on Sunday or wait till Advent. And the honest truth is that that's what you get on this midweek conversation. You get a full disclosure. I was afraid I would forget if I waited till Advent. Oh. So I went ahead and used it this week. But I thought it was a powerful thought and because part of that is I believe you do kind of see this picture or this narrative develop where everyone sort of that would follow Jesus closely, they just began to kind of gravitate towards the shadows, right, or the edges. And so then at that point, then it was up to the Pharisees and leaders to do with Jesus as they wanted.
Mm-hmm. But as you were saying that, you were talking about the shadows, I was thinking about even in the shadows, they were still seen as people of God. And like Peter gets called out a couple times. Of course, the denials have to happen and all that. But I think that's true with our life, that even when we hide, there's something about Christ's life in us that is seen. And so it gives you that opportunity to carry that light to a dark world.
Right. I think so. And, that's definitely something for us to think about, not just during this week, but throughout our faith experience.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, I know you think.
Thank you. Yes. I appreciate that. I consider that a compliment.
Well, good. Do you think that we have a tendency to lose some of the intensity of Holy Week if we aren't intentional with that? I guess that's probably a self-explaining deal. But if we aren't intentional with how we approach it, we talk so much about Lent and how we slow it down. But I think Holy Week is that time that we get a chance where if we're not careful, we will speed up. We'll work so hard during Lent to slow everything down. But then at Holy Week, we speed up again and we miss what happens, and we miss the impact it could have on us.
That's the way I see it, and probably speak to that narrative. Now, I don't know if that's a reality for folks. When you look at the Advent season and you look at the Lenten season, the way they're directed from our perspective, they're completely different. And there's a natural momentum that moves through Advent that each time is exciting because it's a celebration of birth. Whereas this one, it's almost as if sometimes I've had enough bad news. I just need to experience the resurrection of Jesus.
Right.
Or I wonder that, that I just can't linger here any longer. I've got to move on and experience the Hosanna in my life. And so, I think that's where it's important for our people to have others that are going to walk that journey with them and be a part of that with them. And we try to set the stage for that in our worship together. And we've talked too about how, in terms of we are a Baptist church, and even though we have more and more folks joining us from other denominations, we still have some of that heritage in us. And this is not something that we have historically done well.
Right.
And so it's new to a lot of people, or there are people who have come to this without really knowing much detail. They just kind of knew the routine.
Right.
And so we try to be sensitive to that. We over-communicate it, I believe, or at least that's our attempt, so that everyone can understand, what it is that we're trying to progress through in preparing for resurrection.
And it might be just part of me trying to hold back, but we talked about Advent, that one of my pet peeves is having a cross in the midst of the Advent display.
Right.
Because just experience the birth and be a part of that. And this Good Friday service, Tenebrae service, is one of those that I don't want to hear, but don't worry, Sunday's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Because the disciples didn't get to hear that. They heard it ahead of time through Jesus, but they didn't fully understand. I want to leave there understanding more of what they experienced. So when we blow out that Christ candle for the last time, I want that to be something that I live with through the weekend, just like they would have had to. And I think you get to Sunday and you experience it more fully, more joyfully, because you didn't say, but don't worry, Sunday's coming.
Well, it's that thing, too, where we gravitate towards life and not death.
Right.
And yet it's the death that makes the life significant.
Right.
So we're trying to keep those parts together, in the way that we construct things. And then we're that's right. One of the things we enjoy, I think, about getting to do this conversation is that it does put us on point each week, you and I, where we do have those conversations throughout the year. Now that we do this, it does really cement the opportunity for us to talk about this every week. But it's something, I think you and I are on the same page with, and it makes it flow better. But particularly like you mentioned, what you're doing in student ministry, that's good to have that experience, and I know the children do the same kinds of things. So it is an experience that we want to experience. We want to be a part of fully,
right.
And not. I think the theme this year, and I've shared with you that the difficulty I had this go around was not trying to overuse language in the communication, but what we've said from Advent on is wait for the experience of Christ in your life and in the experience of His story developing. And so anyways, I may have to continue to learn how to do that. I don't know what that looks like for sure, but
we have we had Palm Sunday, we're going to have Good Friday, and I definitely don't want to jump ahead to Resurrection Sunday, but we do have a special Sunday planned for that day also, that we're moving. Service time has moved up 30 minutes. We're moving 10 o'clock worship. We won't have any class that morning. We won't have any Sunday morning classes that morning. Hopefully we will have class that morning. But we just want to remind everybody that 10 o'clock on Sunday morning this week, and our choir is going to have a big part, worship choir is going to have a big part in that service also.
Right. We know one of the things that we acknowledge is that that one Sunday, as significant as it is, can be sidetracked by family and photographs. And it's a fun day. It's a very special day, and that should definitely be a part of it. But so that's the reason, one of the reasons that we move the time to give people a later time to arrive without having their normal Sunday morning responsibilities.
Right.
And then we've expanded the worship time just a bit. We'll still be out before 11:30.
Right.
But it is gonna be power packed. There's a lot of stuff in there. We get to baptize again, and this is the second Easter in a row that we've had baptism on Easter, and so that's exciting. Our choir presentation is going to be good, so we get the full story of Jesus, and we segmented everything yesterday, and it's something to look forward to.
And we've started something the next Sunday where we're going to do communion, so we thought that was a very good place to, instead of doing it on Good Friday or Easter or Resurrection Sunday, that we move it to the next week and do it in remembrance of Jesus.
Yeah, and trying to, I start my Wednesdays. It's pretty much devoted towards content for everything that we're saying through conversation, and so when you think about that and you have the opportunity to come together, and it's almost like you draw a deep breath and say, and in our communion next Sunday, it's kind of like, this is who we are, and this is how we move forward into what the Bible starts describing as church,
right?
And then hopefully we can pick up through the process that deep communion of faith, and experience some of the same things that the early church experienced.
I'm looking forward to the rest of this week, Lent lunch today and tomorrow, and then it's Good Friday.
Yeah, it's a very busy week. It's probably not a busier week that we have, but it's very rewarding, very fulfilling. So join us or others wherever you are, and make the most of this opportunity to deepen your faith.
I'll be here before 10 o'clock Sunday.
I'll be here before 10 also, and look forward to seeing you.
Excellent.
We'll see you there too.
See ya.